Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to talk about something literally all of us struggle with: how to truly master your mind. It's absolutely fascinating to discover how profound ancient wisdom pairs so perfectly with modern science to give us a real, actionable roadmap. If you're looking for a guide to the art of living peacefully, finding absolute clarity in your actions, and figuring out a way to excel in a world that is just full of doubts and struggles, the source material we're covering today provides some truly incredible answers. Let's dive in. Have you ever wondered why, on some days you wake up intensely motivated, ready to conquer the world, and then on other days you feel inexplicably lazy, or maybe just totally confused? Like, where do those massive shifts even come from? It really begs a profound question. Are we actually in control of our actions, or is there something else entirely pulling the strings behind the scenes? Well, the source texts offer an incredibly surprising answer to that exact question. Section 1. Philosophy meets practical living. To really wrap our heads around this idea of free will, we need to look at two of the absolute greatest ancient texts from Hindu philosophy that actually decode the mechanics of human behavior: the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita. It's kind of like a two-part system. The Upanishads provide this incredibly deep philosophical foundation. They're very contemplative, always asking, what is ultimate reality, and focusing heavily on internal purity. But then, the Bhagavad Gita takes that profound theory and turns it into a totally actionable everyday playbook. It asks, okay, but how should I act in the modern world? And one of the most fascinating takeaways from the source material is the introduction of this profound concept called the Tri-karan rule. This rule basically says that ultimate reality and true peace are only achieved when our thoughts, our words, and our deeds are perfectly aligned. So the Gita is really teaching us how to practice engaged spirituality, maintaining that perfect Tri-karan alignment of mind, speech, and action while we actively navigate our super stressful daily duties. Section 2. The Three Gunas Explained. So, Chapter 14 of the Bhagavad Gita reveals the fundamental qualities of nature that are actually driving every single thought, word, and action we take. These forces are called the three gunas: sattva, rajas, and tamas. And here's the kicker: every single person has all three of these constantly battling it out inside them. Sattva is the quality of goodness, purity, and calmness. It brings incredible light and clarity to your life. Rajas, that's your passion, your energy, and the ambition that drives you to achieve things. And tamas is inertia. It reflects laziness and confusion, sure, but it also provides the necessary rest we all absolutely need. Now, here is where it connects beautifully back to that Tri-karan rule. These gunas can totally hijack our alignment. When Rajas dominates, our thoughts get super anxious, our speech gets rushed, and our actions become restless. When Tamas takes over, our thoughts get cloudy, we barely speak, and we're just lethargic. But when Sattva dominates, that's when your thought, word, and deed fall into this beautiful, peaceful alignment. Section 3. Driving your mind's car. I know, grasping a 2,500-year-old philosophical concept can sometimes feel a bit abstract, but the sources use this incredibly relatable, everyday metaphor to break it down. Think of your mind as a car. Raja's your accelerator. It gives you that fiery energy and desire to move forward and take action. Tamas acts as the brakes, allowing you to slow down, rest, and sleep. And obviously, we absolutely need both to function, right? You can't drive a car without an accelerator or brakes. But sattva is the steering wheel. It's what allows us to consciously steer our thoughts, words, and actions in the exact same direction. Without sattva guiding our Tri-karan, we're basically driving blind. We are guaranteed to crash, overwhelmed by either way too much ambition or way too much lethargy. The texts also offer this really beautiful, poetic image. Imagine your soul is a balloon that just wants to fly freely into the sky, but it's tied down with a string. And that string is the three gunas. Mother Nature basically uses these modes to get her work done through us, effectively tying the imperishable soul directly to the physical body. And honestly, we feel this pull every single day through modern world triggers. Think about it. A sudden notification on your phone sparks that restless pulling of rajas. The heavy stress of societal pressure sparks the anxious pulling of tamas. As long as we're unconsciously driven by the pushing and pulling of the string, just blindly reacting to our environment, we aren't truly free. We have to learn to consciously rise above them. Section 4. Modern science and consciousness. Now, this isn't just ancient poetry or a fun metaphor. When we look at how Vedic traditions formally map out the universe, we see this fascinating hierarchical structure that completely challenges our usual assumptions. This model, which gets explored a lot in modern physics and consciousness studies, illustrates that physical matter actually manifests directly from consciousness energy. It shows a paradigm where pure consciousness sits at the absolute foundation. That foundational consciousness then filters up through different layers, like the mind and the intellect, to ultimately create the dense physical reality we experience, measure, and interact with. It's a completely different top-down paradigm for understanding our existence. And it's absolutely incredible to see how modern neuroimaging is actually proving this ancient top-down model. We can visibly see the physical effects of consciousness interacting with the body right now. Studies demonstrate that disciplined practices, specifically the ones designed to cultivate sattva and align our Tri-karan, literally induce neuroplasticity. By meditating and deliberately aligning our thoughts, words, and actions, we are creating measurable structural and functional adaptations in our brain networks. The ancient sages knew this through deep contemplation, and today's scientists are confirming it with MRI machines. Disciplined focus doesn't just make us feel better philosophically, it physically rewires our brains for cognitive clarity and deep emotional stability. But there is a super fascinating philosophical divide between these two approaches that is definitely crucial to understand. Modern neuroscience generally takes a correlational approach. It observes physical brain activity and tries to map it to our subjective experiences. It essentially looks for consciousness hiding inside the firing neurons. Vedic philosophy, on the other hand, is causal. It proposes that consciousness is primary and absolutely irreducible. It doesn't just randomly emerge from physical brain computations. Rather, consciousness is the independent, organizing force behind both our material bodies and our psychological experiences. Section 5. Exercising your free will. So if consciousness is primary, and we've got these gunas constantly pushing and pulling our daily moods, how do we actually exercise free will, especially when these forces are constantly dragging us around? Well, the secret lies entirely in the Tri-karan rule. You see, free will isn't just about making massive, once-in-a-lifetime life choices. It's a constant, dynamic, moment-to-moment battle right inside you. To increase sattva and find peace, you have to actively overpower your rajas and tamas. It's a competitive loop. If you feed your ambitions and desires way too much, rajas overpowers sattva, making your thoughts and actions super restless. Free will is the daily conscious choice to perfectly align our internal thoughts, our spoken words, and our physical actions. Quite simply, whatever guna you choose to feed through those three channels becomes your ultimate reality. So, how do we intentionally feed sattva to gain that steering wheel back? The source material gives us a highly actionable blueprint for aligning our Tri-karan every single day. Step 1, eat homemade, pure food and try to avoid the junk that makes you feel lethargic. This actually purifies your physical actions and deeds. Step 2, practice some morning yoga or Surya Namaskar. This channels your energetic rajas correctly right at the start of the day. And step 3, read some daily wisdom, like a few verses from the Gita, to consciously set the direction for your intellect and thoughts. By consciously choosing these simple habits, we systematically build up sattva, naturally overpowering that restless rajas and lazy tamas. Now, why does all of this matter so deeply? As the Gita outlines, while Mother Nature and the gunas do the actual heavy lifting of pushing our energy and fatigue around, we are still entirely responsible for our actions. Why? Because we have been given an intellect and the ultimate steering wheel, our free will. Having free will might not mean we instantly escape the weather of the gunas. Some days will naturally feel more stormy or sluggish than others. But it absolutely means we are the captains of the ship. We get to choose how to sail through our continually aligned thoughts, words, and deeds. Every single morning, you wake up and you are presented with a choice. Will you let the heavy, cloudy inertia of tamas keep you in bed and stifle your words? Will you let the restless, greedy ambition of rajas run your thoughts right off the road? Or will you grab the steering wheel with the clarity, peace, and goodness of sattva, perfectly aligning your mind, your speech, and your actions? So I'll leave you with this. Which guna will you let drive your day today? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope it helps you navigate your path with a little more wisdom, absolute clarity, and a whole lot more peace.